All right, guys, I think we're going to get going. Ready? My name is Randell. I'm the owner of 3 of the Orange Theory fitness studios in Colorado Springs, and health and nutrition has been a passion of mine for a lot of years. And so I'm excited to share with you today. I have my good friend Cammie over here. Cammie's going to do one of our food demos. I met Cammie in August. I tried to keep up with that girl on the incline, and she's an Ironman triathlete. I was like, you just go ahead, I'll just slow down. And yeah, she was great. Once I saw her I'm a person that has to see somebody. If you give me a recipe, I'm probably like, I don't know how to make it. But once I saw her do it, I was like, oh my gosh, I love this. And it's something that I incorporated every week. And then we have Chase in the back. Chase is our Stetson studio manager and also a registered dietitian. So he's also doing food demos and gonna give part of the talk after this as well. When I was designing this course, what was really important to me was that you guys could come away with something tonight that you found useful, that you're going to go home and use. Because one of the days, it was long before Orange Theory, but I had hired a coach to do a food plan for me. And he did the whole food plan. I sat in his office, and I agreed to the food plan while I was with him, saying, yeah, I'll do that. Thinking, there's no way I'm doing that. And honestly, in the trash in the parking lot on the way out, I threw it away because I'm like, I'm never going to use that. And so when we think about this, if it's too restrictive, if it's too hard, I know that you'll never use it. So my goal today is I'm going to share with you lots of information. I'm a big picture person. I love to tell why, because if I don't know the why, I'll never do it. I'll never follow through. But if I know that why, like what happens inside my body if I do this, I'm much, much more likely to follow through. But my thing for you today is don't feel overwhelmed, and one small change at a time. Don't feel like, oh my gosh, I have to do this all tomorrow. You don't. It's one small change per week. You're going to be a whole different person at the end of 2024. And that works a whole bunch better than if you dive in, burn yourself out in 2 weeks, and then quit and go back to what you were doing before. And I know a lot of us, we come with this past, nutrition knowledge, nutrition stuff that we carry. And mine was, I grew up in the fat-free era of like, oh my gosh, fat grams are horrible. Anybody else with me? Yeah, right? I think that was the message we got, like, no fat grams. And I had to laugh when I saw this picture because when Jeff and I got married, we moved to Denver, and we had just gotten married, moved to Denver, had all of these cooking things like pots and pans and all the stuff. We moved back to South Dakota a year later to go to grad school, and it was all still in packages. None of it was out because I don't cook very much. I do now. But one thing we had was Snackwell cookies, and Jeff's got 2 per day, so he didn't eat the whole box because we were on a fat gram budget and we were on a money budget, and so there was 2 Snackwells per day. So that's kind of my background on, gosh, we all come with something. We might come with the struggle too of the scale, the mirror, how our clothes fit. And I know from Orange Theory that when we change that image of just what we look like in the mirror, not from we have to have this perfect body, but so much up here changes. Your confidence level changes. What you think, what you are able to do, it all changes. And I love that for people. So that's my goal today. When we look, I know a lot of you too have thought about calories. Calories is the way, right? Calories in, calories out. But if it was that easy, we would all be skinny. We can figure that out. But I'm sure that all of you guys have tried that before, and it's hard, and it doesn't always work. But that's all we've ever been taught a lot of times is calories in, calories out. And we're going to look at why that doesn't work today. But just to give you a little bit of my background, I didn't have a nutrition and fitness background when I started. I have my MBA, and then I was working in banking. About 12 years ago, we got a little card in the mail for an Orange Theory Fitness. And I was like, awesome, I love fitness, I always have for a hobby, but never as a career. And I begged Jeff to come with me to a class, and he's like, that's for girls. And so finally I won, and he came, walked out of there and thought we should own that. And here we are almost 10 years later for our Stetson studio of owning that. It was really important to me when we opened the studios to be able to do all of the jobs within the studio. And so I got certified as a NASM trainer, coached at our Stetson studio for a couple of years, and then went back on the business side and opened more studios. But a couple years ago, one of my sons got sick, and we really changed like his body, and I saw what food did to his body and how it healed it and what it did, and we really changed as a family. So I got certified in holistic nutrition as well, and it was really, I never do anything unless it's personally tested on myself. It's kind of like Hammy's here today, because I'm like, I know it works, I know Chase's recipes work, but like all of this stuff, I had to wear a glucose monitor to tell you for sure it worked, because I hate just telling people, oh, I think this works, or this is what the book works. This is stuff like I will test on myself too, but is also researched. My other goal is just to change your mentality on food. A lot of us have thought of food as just good or bad. And instead of doing that, what if we could just think we could use it to fuel our bodies, something that we can put in. So we stop hating like our bodies, because I know some of you are thinking, when you look in the mirror, you're like, oh. Instead of thinking that, just appreciate what your body does for you. You know what? It got you here today. It helps you do, a lot of you, Orange Theory. Some of you, it's helped have babies. Like amazing, awesome things. So instead of the mentality of food is good or bad, and we don't like our bodies, like we're gonna make strong, healthy bodies, but we're not teaching here anything about a diet. It is really a healthy lifestyle. How do we live healthy today, and how do we age healthy is the goal. And then create a plan for you. So I hope I don't find any of these in the trash outside. That's my goal. We're gonna build it together. But honestly, a lot of research has changed my mind. And again, I'm a research girl, and knowing the why behind it. These are some of the books I used, and I gave you a resource guide in the back, so you don't have to write these down. But a lot of them have books, podcasts, that are super helpful if you want to continue after this. But I'll try and break it down, make it easy. Because we know it's more than calories in, calories out. Calories matter, but so do your macros, your protein, fat, carbs. Your timing of when you eat matters. Your hormones matter a lot too. And the two we're going to talk about, because sometimes when I think hormones, people are like, what are you talking about? But we're going to talk about insulin and cortisol today. And we're going to put them all together to really make a plan that works for you. So let's just talk about dieting. Anybody gone on a diet? Anybody on a diet? Right? Trying to lose weight January 1st, it's kind of the thing. But we all have what's called a metabolic rate, a BMR. And if you're from Orange Theory and you've done the InBody scan, or you're going to do our transformation challenge, and you will do the InBody, your metabolic rate shows up there. It's based on if you're male or female, your age, how much muscle you have, how much fat you have, makes up your metabolic rate. And all of that means is if you sat on the couch all day long, how many calories would your body burn every day? That's your metabolic rate. What happens when you diet? Let's say I have a metabolic rate of 1,500 calories. And then I add in working out, moving. Let's say I burn between 2,000 and 2,200 calories a day, normally, just to maintain my weight. If I decide, okay, I'm going on this crazy diet and I am going all in, I'm losing weight, I'm going down to 1,200 calories, right? And I've seen this day after day, year after year at Orange Theory of people do this. When you look at what they're eating, it's not enough. Because what your body does, it's really, really smart. If it needs 1,500 calories just to survive, and you're only feeding it 1,200 calories, it's saying, hey, we're not getting enough food in here. Let's shut it down. We need to reduce our output, and it changes your metabolic rate. And for a long time, we thought metabolic rate was stable, and it's not. So your metabolic rate changes when you diet, or it can if you do it too extreme. It doesn't reduce insulin when you diet, and we're going to talk about why that's super important. And then the last thing is we're just burning the glucose we're eating, even if we're eating less calories. So let me just tell you about insulin, because there's a lot of buzz right now around it, a lot of buzz on the diet drugs out there. But for me, what insulin does, it's really just a hormone. Your pancreas secretes that hormone, and it helps you maintain blood sugar. So I'm a picture person, and again, because this isn't my science, it takes me a long time to understand. Like, I need really simple pictures like this, so that's why I'm going to explain it. When your body eats, or when you eat something, your pancreas says, hey, we got glucose in here. We need to get that into the cell. So your body is going to tell your pancreas to release insulin. Insulin is released, and that's what transports your glucose, or what your food breaks down to, into your cell so your cell can use it, which is all great and works well. But that's what insulin does. I'm going to give you another picture of why this is important, because we know two things have to happen for you to burn fat. And typically when we're trying to lose weight, when we're trying to be healthy, fat is what we're trying to burn. And two things have to be present. One, we have to burn through all of the glycogen in our liver and our muscles. And the second thing is we have to have low insulin. So I'm going to give you an example as a refrigerator freezer. I want you to think of your refrigerator as your liver and your muscles. You have to eat everything in there before you can get to the freezer, which is your fat storage. So then we can get to that fat storage. But again, you have to burn through and eat everything in the fridge first, and then you get to the fat storage. And we're going to come back to this, and I'll tell you why that's important. Because when you eat really matters. Anybody have heard of intermittent fasting? Anybody do intermittent fasting? Some people? Some people think, awesome. Some people I know that freaks out and think, oh my gosh, I'm not doing that. Sounds scary or hard or difficult. I think across the board. What I can tell you is intermittent fasting can be very easy. It doesn't have to be extreme. If you told me I had to intermittent fast for 16 hours a day, I'd be like, I'm out. I need to eat more than 8 hours a day. So that's not the goal at all. But we're going to make some basic rules. 12 hours is really the basic rule. It's not really intermittent fasting. It's just giving your metabolism a rest. It's letting your body use all of that food in the refrigerator so we can get to the freezer, okay? That's our goal. And we're going to talk about intermittent fasting, and we're going to build a plan at the end. Like, what does that look like for you? Maybe 12 hours is an awesome window. You know what it helps me do? Not eat ice cream at night. Might help you guys do that too. But after dinner, it's like, I don't snack. We don't snack. That's we're done until breakfast the next day. Because it's not like you're picking, unless you're different than me, but usually celery or carrots out of your refrigerator at night. Like, it's the stuff that you're probably not supposed to have. For me, it's ice cream. So we're going to try and just shut that down, whatever that looks like for you. And I'm going to give you a whole bunch of ideas so we can make this fit into your life. Make sense? The other one, and this one I will tell you, has been hard for me. 3 to 4 hours in between meals. Any snackers in here? Yeah, I'm a snacker too, I hear ya. I like to eat all day long. So this really made sense to me though, when I did wear a glucose monitor, to see what that does to your body. It spikes it up, spikes it up, spikes it up all day long. So it's really been a change since I've done that about 6 months ago, to really sit down and eat my meals, be done, and then not eat for 3 to 4 hours. And honestly, I've had to train my body to change to be able to do that. Again, we don't have to do this all tomorrow. These are kind of like goals we're going to set out there. But this is what happens. So this picture over here was in the 70s, what people typically did. They ate breakfast, didn't snack, ate lunch, didn't snack, ate dinner, and they were done. This is what we do today. We eat breakfast, a little snack. Eat lunch, a little snack. Eat dinner, have some ice cream, and then it's maybe like 8 hours later and we're eating breakfast again. But you can see what that does to your insulin. And remember my refrigerator freezer example, what has to be true? Insulin has to be low, which is not in this case when we snack all the time. And we have to burn through all of our storage in our muscles and our liver. And it never happens when we're eating all of the time. So we don't have to be extreme, we don't have to go crazy, but we do have to reduce our insulin. So dieting versus fasting. And again, this could be a fast as short as 12 hours, but we know dieting lowers your metabolic rate. It just will. If your body is smart, and it's going to tell it to slow it down. Typically, it doesn't lower insulin levels, because in that example, you can be eating low-calorie things, and it still spikes your insulin all the time. One of the things when I was wearing my monitor that spiked my insulin the most is I was on a flight, I was starving. Typically, I travel with a lot of my food, and I didn't. It was like this little package of fat-free graham crackers, and then I sat there, and my spike was so high. So even if you think you're eating healthy things like that, it's packaged as healthy, it can still have a big effect. And then no change in growth hormone. And why that matters is growth hormone helps us keep our muscle. We know for fasting, honestly, they're not sure why, but it raises metabolic rate. It lowers insulin level, we saw in that graph before, and then it increases our growth hormone, so it's going to help us hold on to that muscle. Anybody heard this? If you have to eat every few hours to increase your metabolism, right? I've heard that a lot. It was advice, and I think that's why it's so confusing, because this information is out there and that information is out there. But this doesn't make any sense when you know what really happens in your body. You really have to give it that break. So again, this is a different way to look at it. In the 70s, we were part insulin dominated and part deficient. We had that balance like the graph had. But now, because we're eating all the time and we eat so much processed food, we're mostly insulin dominate. But insulin, there's a couple things that what you eat matters. Again, my little thing of graham crackers that I thought, I mean, they look pretty healthy. They had a package that said low fat, healthy, all this kind of stuff on there. But then when you see what it does to your body, you're like, not so much. So your carbs are what's going to spike your insulin the most. And we know there's good carbs and there's bad carbs. There's fruit and vegetables. Those are good carbs because they have fiber that typically comes with them. And we're going to talk about that. And then you have your bad carbs, which are your sugar and your processed foods. And those are going to spike it a lot because typically they don't have the fiber that goes with it. They're all the things like we like to eat though. Or a lot of us like, I like to eat them anyway. Crackers, chips, pasta. Although pasta can be, you know, we can make some better choices, maybe than chips, but all of those. Protein doesn't increase our blood sugar as much, but it can increase our insulin too. The thing with protein, it helps you feel full longer. It really helps you go those 3 to 4 hours in between meals. It's going to help you go at least 12 hours at night. Protein is the key for muscle building, and we got to be eating our protein. And that's going to be our building block today, because I'm not going to tell you you have to take away a bunch of foods. We're going to work out the processed foods of your diet, but honestly, I can tell you this from experience. I'm a sugar girl. I love sugar, and I can eat M&Ms with the best of them. But what it really has changed over the years as I've changed my protein and my veggie intake. I don't crave it like I used to. I mean, it would be terrible for me to have a bowl in my house, and I probably could do it now and be okay, of something super sweet. So your body is going to change, but that's not goal day one. Our goal is really to add in our protein because we know it's going to help our body. The other thing is it has a thermogenic effect. And what that means is if you eat 100, let's say 100 calories of protein, it takes your body about 25 grams of protein just to break that all down. It's a lot higher than our fats or our carbs. The other thing is fat. It doesn't really have an effect on blood sugar or insulin. And this was important for me to know because I know some of you have tried intermittent fasting before. Anybody heard of like butter in coffee or MCT oil or something like that? And you're like, does that work or doesn't it work? That's again why I had to put a monitor on to figure out if it worked or didn't work. It doesn't spike anything. So on your longer fast, it can be a great way. I use MCT oil in the morning in my coffee. It helps me feel full longer. It's not our goal just to do a bunch of that kind of stuff because what you have to remember is there's still calories that are going in your body, but it's better than like, let's say a cream, because again, a cream is gonna spike like your insulin. It has to be just a true fat, okay? Are you guys still with me? I know this is a lot. Okay. We're going to build your plan in just a little bit, but I feel like I have to lay some basic foundations if you're anything like me, because otherwise I won't do it. So some of you have heard of insulin resistance, or you may have been told you're insulin resistant, and you're like, what is that? And so again, insulin is like the key up there. It unlocks so the glucose can get into your cell. And what happens when you become insulin resistant is that door just doesn't open as much. So some of the glucose goes in, but a lot of this stays out. And remember, when it's outside of the cell, what does it tell your pancreas to do? You got it, produce more insulin. So then you produce more insulin and more comes out. And so you're always producing high amounts of insulin, but your body doesn't need that. You just need that key to work better. You become insulin resistant if you're eating all the time, you're eating a lot of processed foods. Those are the key things for this. So again, two things have to be present. High hormone levels, a lot of insulin, because it's always, your pancreas is always saying, get out more insulin so we can get this glucose into the cell. And then constant stimulus, like you're always eating. There's a couple sneaky things. So we know our basics, but then we look, this is gonna be your homework tonight. When you guys go, because I think you'll find it super eye-opening, look in your refrigerator and your pantry. There's a couple super sneaky things, and first is high fructose corn syrup. And I didn't really understand the effects of this until you really dive into the research, especially this study. Because I'm like, how bad can a little bit be? But it's pretty bad. So they took healthy subjects, they gave them 1,000 extra calories a day. One of them was just glucose, just your simple sugars. The other one, they gave fructose. And in just 7 days, the people that just got fructose, their insulin sensitivity was 25% worse. So it's a big deal and it happens pretty quick. So I want you to go home and look at your food labels for ketchup, salad dressing, your condiments in your refrigerator, and then any of your processed foods. Just see. I think you'll be surprised how many things it's in. And it's in there because it helps the shelf life be stable for a lot longer, and it's really cheap to produce. And for a long time, we didn't understand what the effect was on your body, but now they know the effect of high fructose corn syrup. It's in a lot of kids' things too. So if you're a parent, look out for this, because again, it costs more probably to get the product without it, but it's worth it to get the product without it. So that's homework number one. The other thing is cortisol, and this is our second hormone we're gonna talk about. And cortisol gets a bad rap because everyone thinks, oh my gosh, it's bad. But cortisol, we need it. It helps us get out of bed in the morning. Typically, your cortisol is high in the morning, and then as the day goes, it decreases. But cortisol is your stress hormone. It also is your fight or flight hormone. So when it's released, your body's ready to go. It's ready to run from that lion. And then your body can then use the glucose, and it works great if there's a lion. The issue is we don't really have lions today, many of us. But what we do have is bosses that stress us out. Financial pressure, school, homework, kids, teenagers. Teenagers, big one on here. And that makes us have cortisol all of the time. What that does under chronic stress is it triggers, again, the release of insulin. So if you're under chronic stress all of the time, your insulin levels are high. And what did we say to burn fat? You can't have high insulin levels, right? That's why this matters. This matters in sleep too, because if you get a bad night's sleep, your cortisol levels the next day start out at about 100% higher, and then by the end of the day, they're still about 30% higher. So if you're not sleeping or thinking, oh my gosh, I'm one of those people that can run off 5 hours of sleep, like you're probably not, and your cortisol levels are high. So this is a blood test you can do. It's a little tricky because they vary throughout the day. Typically they'll do it fasted though, and can tell you what your cortisol levels are. But you can probably honestly just do a gut check and be like, how is my stress? Because that matters a lot. So we know, again, exercise is one of the best ways to get rid of cortisol. It's going to spike your cortisol in the short term because, again, your body needs it. It's going to tell your body, let's go. But then you actually move, you do it, and then it drops it back down. The issue we get is that chronic. Fiber is the other thing that can really help us. Fiber is one of those things that adds instead of subtracts. And our goal for fiber, if you're a female, is 25 grams. If you're a male, it's 31 grams. Any guess on how?
Half that.
Yeah, less than half that, about 15. So 15 on average. And this is one of the things that really can help us. And we're going to look at this. But if you understand net carbs, so let's say something has 10 carbs and it has 2 grams of fiber, your net carbs are going to be 8. So you have 8 carbs, and those are the ones like we're really going to pay attention to is our net carbs when we look at our plan. The other one is vinegar. Usually people use apple cider vinegar, can be any vinegar, but 2 tablespoons before you eat. You can do it 1 to 3 times a day. You have to mix it with water or it's going to hurt the enamel on your teeth. But this significantly lowers your blood sugar when you eat. This is something, I do it every morning. I just get a big glass of lemon water, and then on the last little bit, because I don't love the taste, but you do get used to it, you just throw in a little vinegar and you're good to go. But that can be, it's a cheap, easy trick to lower blood sugar before you eat. So just a couple summary things before we start building this plan. We know calorie restriction isn't going to be our best way to build a plan. We're going to look at some type of fasting, even if it's just 12 hours. I would call that an eating window. We know the importance of insulin, because what 2 things have to be true to burn fat? Your insulin has to be low, and you have to get through all of the glycogen in your liver and your muscles. And then those sneaky things, you're looking at home today, like what has high fructose corn syrup? You're going to think twice about eating it. We know we have to reduce our stress levels. And then 2 easy things to start to pay attention to is fiber, and we might add apple cider vinegar. But when we do this plan, I'm going to help you build this plan, is we're really going to add versus subtract. Because again, I think we all know sugar's bad for us. That's why I didn't really put it in here and harp on that. Like, I knew that for a lot of years. But if you tell me not to eat it, that wasn't like super helpful just to be like, don't eat it. But if you can build a plan where you're like full and you're happy with the choices you're making, and then you don't want it, it's a whole lot easier to do. But we don't have to be perfect. Like, we're looking at 80-20 rule. Nobody expects you to go to your kid's birthday party, and if you like want a piece of cake, like have a piece of cake. You don't have to be perfect all of the time. We're gonna go for 80% of the time. Thinking about what eating window really works for you. When will you work out and how? Because that is key to your cortisol levels. It's key to like using the fuel your body uses or needs. And then let's make that plan for you. I'm gonna follow up just so you guys know. They're gonna do recipes, they're gonna do food demos. You have those recipes. On the way home tonight, because Jeff's my driver, I'm gonna send you an email with a couple things, recipes, some basic supplement recommendations. Like you need some basic things typically that you probably just can't get from food the way our food is sourced today. Just where I buy my ingredients online, that I'm not one, if I have to walk around the store for 30 minutes to try and find something, I'm not gonna get it. After I went to Cammie's cooking class, I'm like, I don't have any of these things in my refrigerator, or like four or five. I'm like, I had to get some of them. We've made some changes. So just like the goal is to make it easy for you. And then what kind of protein you put in your body, it matters a lot. So I'll give you where we get our grass-fed organic meat. And I know it's a little bit more expensive. I think it's cheaper if you buy it in bulk online. But what I will tell you is look at your habits. I know buying organic is a little bit more expensive, but how much do you eat out? Do you do Starbucks? Like we made some switches in our families, like not to eat out as much, not to drink Starbucks, and to spend more money on what we eat at home than we used to. So you don't have to do that. That's just recommendations that I used, and I'm a research girl again, and if I can save you the time and energy, that was my goal. So let's build this plan. You guys ready? Okay, so first on here is we're gonna calculate protein. Put your name on there and your date, and we're gonna calculate protein. And when you guys go out there, if you go out, anybody need one of these? We got extra ones. Ed, do you guys have one back there? You have one? Okay. You will find a lot of different recommendations for protein. And you're like, I don't know what to use. So the recommended by the government is 0.4 grams. What I will tell you is recommended daily allowance is really for you not to get sick. It's not for you to live optimally, and especially if you're working out. We need protein. We need protein as we age because longevity, what the research is showing is your muscle is key to longevity. So I know some of you guys are like super young and you're thinking, I got it. But it starts at 30. Unless you're strength training, you lose 1% of your muscle mass every year. And when you turn 60, you lose 2% unless you're strength training. And you do that with strength training and protein because that's your building block. So on here, it's 0.7 grams to 1 gram per pound of ideal body weight. Okay, so think about what you'd like to weigh. If it's, let's say 150 pounds, our goal is gonna be around 150 grams of protein. Might be a little bit less, I can't do that math in my head, 0.7 to times 150. But I want you to write that down for me. Write that down on there, because we're gonna calculate, you see that? Yeah.
How do you know your ideal body weight?
When did you feel the best, or what do you, like, I guess what would you like to weigh?
Okay.
Like really ideally, like again, we're not going for the 110 pound look of just what do you really like think this is my goal weight, what I'd want to do. Okay. Everybody got their protein on there? What I will tell you guys is anybody track protein? Few people. Yes, sometimes. If you don't track it and now you have this goal, I'm going to tell you you have to be really intentional about eating this much protein. It doesn't happen on accident. I'll give you my example. Jeff and I, when we were in grad school, we started this contest. It was called Body for Life. And we didn't have, some of you might remember this, we didn't have that much money, so we spent this money on supplements and getting a gym membership, and we were ready to go. And you had to eat like 100 and some grams of protein every day. I had never drank a protein shake in my life, and I went and drank my first one and was like, I'm out, I quit. He's like, you can't quit day one, like meal one, you have to keep going. But what we did and why I know it works is it was honestly when we saw the most change, and we've done it over the years of just keeping protein high. So you'll probably have to look at some type of protein shake, not everyone. You don't have to. You might be able to do it with food. And I gave you some examples there, like how do you get this? Kind of one of our secret, if you like eggs and you're okay with dairy, cottage cheese, Good Cultures is a good brand. You can mix eggs and cottage cheese, which this is from Maddie, our GM. She does, and it actually gets to 28 grams of protein. And that's key. 30 grams of protein is really what you want to start your breakfast with. Whenever you eat that first meal of the day, 30 grams of protein is your goal. Okay? I want you to write that one down. 30 grams of protein, first meal of the day. What is a standard American diet, though? Bagels, toast, cereal, bananas, right? It doesn't have any protein in it. So we're going to add protein. It could be a protein shake. It could be, Chase actually has some great options for us that he's going to give. But these were just some ideas of ways to get protein. But when you go home, the other thing is, what do you like? Because again, if I tell you to eat chicken and you hate chicken, like don't eat chicken. You can eat turkey, or you can do protein or eggs. Like do the things you like to do on here, but start to pay attention to protein, okay? We're all good on our protein goal? You're gonna have to figure out though, again, if it's 150 grams, how am I gonna get there? And I'm gonna start my first meal with 30 grams of protein, okay? The next thing is veggies. Again, this is where we're gonna get a lot of our fiber, is our fruits and our vegetables. And our goal is 25 grams for women, 31 for men. That's minimum. I want you guys eventually to go a lot higher, but I will tell you, especially what Cami does for lunch has helped me a lot do this, and helped your gut microbiome likes a lot of different colored veggies, a lot of different veggies, and she's going to talk about that. It makes it really easy to do, because again, I'm never going to pick a vegetable out of my refrigerator if I have to cut it and prep it. Typically, it all has to be done for me, so I grab it and go. I have a lot of Tupperware in there in glass containers, so I know this is what I'm picking and this is why I'm picking it. But you're thinking high fiber on your vegetables. Again, these are just some ideas, and I gave you a site. It's on this sheet when we do our weekly plan. If you're thinking, well, what about, I don't know, celery? How many grams of fiber does that have? You can look it up, okay? And just start to pay attention. So we're gonna add in our veggies. And those two things, I will tell you, if you can do, the rest will start to fall in place. If you can do your protein intake and then also your veggie intake, the rest will fall in place. The second thing I would say is fruits. Typically people can have 1 to 2 fruits a day. They do have sugar in them. They're your natural sugars, so they're not your added sugars. And they have fiber in them, which is gonna help our insulin. So be thinking about what fruits do you like, and then how much fiber do those fruits have in it? Because there might be something that you like, you know, equally as well. Let's say a banana and raspberries. Well, raspberries have a lot more fiber in them, so they might be a better choice if you're struggling to get to that 25 or 31 grams of fiber, okay? So write down a couple ideas for fruits that you'll make. And when they're doing their food demo too, they're gonna give you ideas. If we look at fats, we need fat in our diet. You know what, the food industry really tricked us all, because what they put in there when they took out all those fat grams was sugar and carbs. And what that does is it makes you crave more and more, so you buy a lot more of that food. We need healthy fat. I'm not talking about the McDonald's cheeseburger. I'm talking about the avocado, the nuts, olive oil, chia seeds. Chase has a really good recipe, and chia seeds are awesome for fiber. You guys can knock out 10 grams of fiber with 3 tablespoons of chia seeds. So, and he'll show you how to do that. Yeah. It depends. I can show you what I do, and you guys can kind of look, but you can, what I would say is focus on this first, and then I'm going to give you just an example, because I know that's not super helpful. You're going to have to figure out exactly how do you feel on this plan, but 1 is you add in your protein, 2 you add in your veggies, and then we're going to look at our other things, and I'll give you my example. Does that sound good? Okay. And then your carb ideas. These are, again, your good carbs: rice, quinoa, noodles, bread, potatoes. I would say pick the ones you really like that you want to eat. I'm a bread person. Like, I like to have a piece of bread every day. There's some better choices than the Wonder Bread that we're going to pick. We're not picking that one. We're going to start to really pay attention to what does that bread have in it. But there's your carb ideas. So think about that, especially when we're starting to meal plan. Let me just give you my example of what I would do. And again, this is not where, I don't want to give you an exact formula. This is probably what I've done for 20 years, to be honest with you. But I'll just share as a tool. And then you guys, once you start to do your 0.7 to 1 gram of protein, you can start to figure out the rest of those, your carbs and your fat. Sound good? But our goal tonight is the protein, okay? So I'm gonna do 120 grams of protein in my daily diet. We know protein has 4 calories, okay, per gram, 4 calories. So I'm gonna times 4, 480 of my calories are coming from protein.
4 calories.
Does that make sense? You guys with me? Okay. Then I know I'm typically around like 100, we'll just say 160 grams of carbs, okay? Some days it's more, some days it's less. Just an average, okay? Carbs also have 4 calories per gram, okay? When I do that, 6. So 644 calories are for carbs. I don't track this every day, guys. If you've never tracked your macros, though, I would track them for 3 days to a week. I would use an app. There's a lot of good ones. Carbon is the one I like, but there's a ton of them out there that you can track your macros with. You're going to have to pay attention to get to that high of protein. So now I know, okay, I have, because you're asking how many fat grams do I need? I have 480 calories from protein, 644 from carbs. I'm going to do my math there. That's 1,124, okay? So what I would typically do, I probably eat around 1,800 to 2,000 calories a day, depending on what I do for the day. So let's just say, sorry, you're getting all kinds of scribbly math here. 1,800 calories that day minus 1,124. 6, 7. Ed's my accountant and he's watching, so I better do the math right. So I have 676 calories left. That should be from fat. Can somebody divide that by 9 for me? Because there's 9 calories in each fat gram. Okay, 9 calories per fat gram. How many is that?
75.11.
Okay, 75 grams of fat. And if you're thinking, I don't get any of that math she just did, just space it out and that's okay, go for your protein goal right now. But that's how I would get to my fat grams, okay? And when I think about those, I eat a lot of fat now because I eat nuts every day. I probably eat half an avocado every day, olive oil every day. All of those will easily get to 75 fat grams. And again, past Annie would have thought, oh my gosh, 75 fat grams. Now you know fat is not the enemy. It's fine to eat that, okay? Does that make sense? Help? Okay. The next thing is fast, and this came from Sean Stevenson's book, but I like it because, again, when we think about our eating window, you got to figure out your own eating window. I'm going to tell you your goal is not to eat for 12 hours at night and 3 to 4 hours between meals. But some of you, like Jeff, he doesn't eat till like noon typically. That's not going to work for me, but it works great for him. He has like a 16-8 feeding window. He's going to fast for 16 hours and eat for 8. What I will tell you is just make sure you can get all of your protein in your eating window. Some people think more is better, and if you have a 1 hour fasting window, you can't eat all of your protein. And that's really, really important for building muscle and longevity, okay? So play around with that for you. The other thing you might want to do is look at, you can fast for 24 hours or 36 hours. You may want to try that. That's honestly easier for me. I just go into a mental mindset of like, I'm not going to eat from dinner on Monday till dinner on Tuesday. And that's not a big deal. I'll plan days when I'm really busy and don't have to think about it. One, it's going to help your body reset metabolism. It also has something called autophagy. And what that means is you have some cells in your body that are sick or hurt, and when you fast like that, your body gets rid of those cells. So I knew that was important to me. I had a pretty big hip surgery a couple years ago, and so I started doing some 24, 36-hour fasts because it helped with inflammation in my body and just helped with healing my body. Your body will heal that way. So you can look at more on fasting, but think about what works for you. And it doesn't have to be the same every day. If you think, I'm a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 5 a.m. Orange Theory person, awesome. Figure that into your schedule. Some of you need to eat before you work out. Some of you don't need to eat before you work out. I will tell you there's research to support both. There's a lot of research either way. It's personally, how do you feel and what does your body need? Because I know a lot of people over the years, they've told me, I need to eat before I work out. If you tell me I have to eat before I work out, I'm probably gonna throw up on the treadmill. Like, it just doesn't work for me. But what I will do is I drink amino acids, and they help preserve protein, or help preserve muscle. They're proteins that I'll drink. They don't break a fast, and that works for me. So again, I think figuring out that fasting window, and there's a sheet here for you, because I have to have like a plan when I do this kind of stuff. I want you to write out each day, like, what does that look like for you? Think of your schedule, and I know some of your schedule's different every day, but think about it for next week. Like, what could that look like? And again, if all you're doing is 12 hours, or maybe we're working up to 12 hours, put that down. That's awesome. Okay, so that was just F. But then adjust. Is it just your lifestyle? Is it habit that you eat breakfast every day at 7? Or are you actually hungry? I think just check in with yourself. Safeguard your results with supportive nutrients. This again, we're not breaking our fast with a donut. We're going with how many grams of protein would we break our fast? 30. You got it. And then track your goals. How do you look and perform? Like, if you've always eaten before a workout and you're thinking, I don't know why I do that. Maybe I don't need to do that. Try it once without it. If you feel great, awesome, do that. If you don't, go back to eating. Like, just test it on your body. There's not a one size fits all on this because you're all individual. But I like that acronym for FAST because it makes it individual to each one of you. So ideas for successful fast. Again, if you look, some of the research will say black coffee and tea. That's it, okay? The other things you can think about, though, when you do a fast is MCT oil or butter. If it's 100% fat, typically it will not break your fast, okay? You could mix that into your coffee. One, I'm an early morning person. A lot of times, not as much anymore, but the alarm clock went off between 4 and 5. And if I don't eat until 7 or 8, that seemed like a long time to me. And so that's why I would do coffee with MCT oil, because it just made me feel full longer. If that's not the case and you don't need it, just go black coffee. Some other things on here, when I do a longer fast, what will help is chia seeds in water because they are filling, they expand. So put them in there in the morning and then drink it at night. It'll slightly break a fast, but nothing major. And if you want to do something longer, it's an idea. Okay, so now as we go, I'm going to turn it over to Chase, and then Chase is going to do his food demo. And while he's doing it, your goal is to fill this out. I want you to think about, again, when is my eating window? What kind of protein am I going to add in? Do I want to try Chase's burrito recipe or his chia seed pudding? Like all of those kinds of things, so you can build that. And then after he's done, Cammie will come up as well and fill that out. Any questions right now on what we've talked about so far?
So when you say a fast, it's, there are foods you can eat or something you can eat that doesn't necessarily break a fast, correct?
A true fast is going to be black coffee and tea, but if you want to go longer, you do it with just straight fat, and that's typically MCT oil, butter, and sometimes some chia seeds. If it's longer, yeah.
I have a question. Is there any difference in animal protein and plant protein for your proteins?
There is. You can do either. Plant protein, you'll never get a complete protein in a plant. So you have to be more careful because there's different amino acids in plant, or different amino acids that make up your proteins. So you have to mix it up to make sure you're getting the right ones. And Cammie's really good at that. So she's gonna give you some advice there because she's plant-based. But if you look, and you have to just be more cognizant, I think it's a little bit harder, but you can absolutely do it. But if you do meats, they're a way to get a complete protein. Whereas plants, you just have to mix it up a little bit more. Yeah.
I take, because I have some other issues, I take a fiber supplement every day, like Citracell tablets. Will that count in the fiber, or do you want all the fiber to come specifically from food?
I think your goal is to get to it coming all from foods. Yeah. I mean, if, in the meantime, you may have to work up to it, but I think goal is 25 grams from foods. Yeah. Anybody else? Yeah.
Supplements. Do they break your fast?
Just what?
Supplements break your fast.
Good question.
Vitamins, you know.
Depends on.
Oil.
Fish oil is one that does. So you can, I would look at your supplement. And again, if you have a doctor recommended you take this before bed, like you take that before bed. Like don't worry about this, of the fasting. But if there are supplements like fish oil where you can just take them with dinner and it doesn't really matter, then take them with dinner because some of those can. Yeah. Like fiber. Fiber is one that would break a fast. Sometimes you have a fiber supplement that you would drink at night. That's going to typically break your fast. So you would just want to do that a different time.
How important is it to drink or have some kind of protein after you work out? Or is it, like you said, just how you feel? You can go without it and you don't need it? Or...
I would say within the hour is your goal of some type of protein, like if it can fit in there. Because again, you've just broken down a lot of your muscles. And what we know protein does, it's the building block to build them back up. So I would encourage it to do it if you can. Like within an hour is probably, it doesn't have to be immediately when you're leaving the parking lot. Yeah. The other thing that will help, and I'll give you my recommendation in my email, is amino acids. Because you can drink those during the workout. Let's say you know you're working out and then you're not going to dinner for 3 hours. So amino acids are just something that you can drink that will help your muscles repair sooner.
I usually don't. I go Orange Theory later and don't typically like to eat after, but maybe I try that.
Yeah, that could be an option for you. And two, the other thing is, can you get your protein in other times? You'll have to just figure out that, you know what I mean? All my protein grams, can I get them in this window, go to Orange Theory, and then not do it? How do I feel? How is my body reacting?
Thank you.
Yeah.
So you said that you typically do a 12-hour fast. How do you know when it's time to do a 24-hour fast or a longer fast?
I think you'll know your body just feels that way. That's what I started with. I did that for several months, to be honest with you. And then typically we'll eat dinner. We finish around 6:30 or 7 for our family dinner. Today I did the 7:30 at Orange Theory. Got done at 8. By the time I got ready, it was 9 o'clock. That's when I ate breakfast, and it didn't bother me. So you become more metabolically flexible, is what it's called, the longer you go. So that didn't bother me. Where 6 months ago, that would have really bothered me. So I think it's just, how does your body feel? And then nobody says you have to try a longer fast. For me, because of my hip surgery and what I knew it would do for my body, I had a reason to really want to do that. If you think you're insulin resistant, or you've eaten a lot of processed foods in the past, you might want to kickstart your body with a longer fast. Yeah. Anybody else? We can do more questions after, but I'm going to turn it over to Chase.